Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Camp Live. I am Ryan Camp. This channel is all about learning and growing as a filmmaker. So please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's become better filmmakers together. I'm so glad you could join us today. Today's a very special day because I'm joined by my good friend, Courtney G. Jones, the host of Made on Mobile TV, who is a self-described bacon lover, husband, father, filmmaker, island dweller, and I can attest that he is an excellent human being and a fantastic filmmaker who specializes in creating films with his mobile devices. Courtney, how you doing today, man? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, brother. How you doing?
I am absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Today I wanted to discuss how we as filmmakers can take our film projects to the next level. But before we do that, I need to do a little housekeeping and acknowledge this month's channel members. We have Heritage Towards Wexford, Clive Bishop, Paul Kane, and our newest channel member, Alex Maddox. Great name. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Please do me a big favor if you're watching this live right now. Go ahead and hit the like button. Give this video a signal boost so more people will see it. And if you are watching live right now, please be sure to leave a comment or question, and hopefully we can get to it before the end of the show. Courtney, first off, for those who are meeting you for the first time, can you give everyone a little bit of a brief rundown of your background, who you are, where you're from, and how you got started with filmmaking?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on.
No problem.
Coffee with Camp. Except I'm drinking tea.
All right.
So yeah, I've been in the film and television business for going on 30 years now. And
Wow.
it's crazy. Feel old. But I started out in the business. I was a production assistant at one point, but then quickly, because I was a big guy, and the grips and electrics on a particular show that I was on said, hey, you're a big guy, go pick this up, go pick that up. And then I became a grip, and then I became the key grip on a show, because the whole crew, they were like, okay, so we're gonna go off to this other show, and now this is your show. And I was like, great.
Okay.
I have no idea what any of this equipment is in the truck.
So trial by fire is what you're telling me.
Trial by fire, man.
So for people who don't know, who are watching, what exactly does a grip do?
Right. So a grip is a part of the camera crew, essentially, and they are the ones that deal with all the rigging and the manipulation of light and the movement of the camera. If you've seen any shots of cameras on dollies or cranes, or strapped to the side of a car, or a light rigged to the side of a building, that was the grip department, and I was the head of that department.
So basically you're just rigging up all sorts of dangerous things.
Yeah, it's engineer meets Boy Scout, and you're also in charge of safety on the set, know. So
sounds like a pretty fun gig.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, but then I was key grip on a project, Aaliyah's music video, the unfortunate one where she died in the plane crash, in that music video. And then a couple weeks later, 9/11 happened. Wow. And I said, you know what? Let me, before the world blows itself up, let me, try the creative side out, and instead of the technician side. And that's when I made the transition and didn't look back.
So that's when you jumped into narrative filmmaking then?
Yeah. First started with short films, and did a lot of editing and all that kind of stuff. And then because you think you know how to make a movie, you get your friends together and you make a movie. And I made my first feature, and and made all the mistakes.
Hey man, that's how you learn, right? That's how I learn anyway.
Yeah.
Now you've worked on much larger productions than I have personally. Everything that I've done so far up to this point has been really small crews, small cast, maybe no more than like 8 people, I would say. My background, I started out making music videos. Then I started a small production company here when I thought I knew what I was doing. Started doing wedding videos and stuff like that to make money, to buy more gear. That's just how I got my experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started my YouTube channel that I actually started doing narrative film work and trying short films and stuff like that. So today, we're getting your perspective on how we can take what I'm doing right now and take it to that next step. filmmakers who are out there making these small backyard guerrilla style films or one-man films, which is what I do a lot of, just completely by myself. That's how I learned a lot of what I do, is just
Sure.
getting in front of the camera, learning what works in front and behind the camera, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this trailer for Uprising, which is your new sci-fi series that you're working on.
Yeah.
And just from the looks of this, it looks amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But it looks like you have a really large cast for this, from what I can tell from the trailer here, and people are watching the trailer right now. So did you secure the funding for Uprising yourself, or are you paying for this all out of pocket?
Yeah. So this was all out of pocket because when I came up with the idea of this show, it was during COVID, right? It was the beginning of COVID, and I thought, okay, you know what? I need to do something. I can't sit here and do nothing. So I started my YouTube channel, and then started doing little videos. But I came up with the concept for this show because number one, I'm a patient person, but I'm impatient with the industry, And so, if I can't get funding for something, then I'll go and fund it myself and just do it and get it done. Because I figure it's better to do something than sit around for 2-3 years and do nothing and waiting for somebody to give you a thing, and that's not going to happen. Yeah. So I funded it myself, but the reason why I did this show and created it, because I wanted to prove that mobile, and you can see here on the screen, I shot that this whole episode, the pilot episode, on the iPhone 12 Pro Max with actually this 58 millimeter lens and the Cinebloom, which I have on right now, is what I'm shooting myself with as my webcam. But I wanted to prove that mobile was ready for prime time, and so I went and shot this thing, and I think it came out looking pretty good.
It looks fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, so
very inspiring.
No, look, I mean, that's aside from me wanting this to actually be a show you can see on the streaming service or TV or whatever, I wanted to prove that it was ready for prime time, and that's why I did it, to inspire other people. I mean,
absolutely.
That I say on my channel all the time is that you don't need permission to create your vision, and that's what I was trying to kick myself into high gear and just do something and get it done.
Absolutely. It's kind of all script here, but when it comes to sci-fi, a lot of people shy away from sci-fi because it does entail, usually, depending on the story, a lot of VFX, CGI stuff. Is that stuff you do on your own, or you outsource that to somebody else?
I do on bigger projects. I outsource it, but on smaller projects, I do it myself. Like that shot that you just saw there with the ship coming in over the planet. I did that shot, and I did several of the shots in here, but some of them were a couple of them were stock footage, but I think we passed all those. Like that one, that one, and that one. Those were stock shots, but then they worked really well with the stuff that I did myself. Like that, I did that one and that. So, and that one. So there's a lot that you can do. I mean, the software out there right now is getting easier and easier for generally most people to use, and so I am not a good visual effects artist, not like I know people who are like industry people working for ILM and other companies and all that kind of stuff. I'm serviceable.
That's me. I can do the basics, and that's where it pretty much ends.
Yeah. If you ask me to do more than what I did on here, it totally falls apart. So
well, going back to the cast, it looks like you have an incredible cast on this thing, and a pretty large cast from the looks of it. How do you go about finding cast and crew for your films? Do you have a stable of people that you use on a regular basis, or how did you go about finding people to fill the spots for you?
So I use the friends and friends of friends, the friends and family network. Even when I'm doing stuff with people who are Hollywood actors, those are I start with my friends and I work my way out that way. So here, almost every one of these actors that is in this show is local. They're a local actor, and I live on an island in the Pacific Northwest, just like directly west of Seattle, and so here on the island, we're lucky enough to have, some theater groups and some people who have done some film and some television and all of that. And so I have a producer,
Hmm.
and she knew everybody because she ran the theater company, for a
Yeah.
while. She's in film, she does it all, so she knows all the actors. So the first thing you got to do is hire somebody that knows more than you. That's
Hire a great producer.
the number one
That's a
rule.
great tip. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I actually talk about a lot here on the channel is the friends of friends approach. If you're trying to do something, save some money, start with the resources that you have, the friends that you have available to you right then, and kind of work your way out, and only go outside of that if you have to,
If you have to,
Yeah.
and I have done that, on my last feature film. We shot that in New Mexico, and we had actors and MMA fighters and all this stuff, and I didn't know all of those people. I only knew a couple of the actors, and I was just like, you come on, and who do you know that could fill this role?
Yeah.
And it just kind of mushroomed out from there. Oh, I know somebody great who would be perfect for this and that. I wrote that one in particular for Michelle Watterson. She's in the MMA world known as the Karate Hottie, and
Okay.
yeah, so she's professional fighter. That's what she does. But so I wrote it for her and knew somebody who knew her, and that's how
Yeah.
it mushroomed out. Yeah.
Sometimes it's best to write a role for a particular person that you have in mind for a role.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a role for that person, maybe write around them when you're taking stock of the people you have available to you. So that's a really
And that's what I
great tip.
did with the show. So it just, and I'll try to be, brief with this, but what I did was, when Shannon, my producer, said, "Oh, I know so and so would be great." So first two people I cast in this was Shannon and her husband, who had both been in my second feature film. So I knew what
Okay.
they could do,
Yeah.
already, and I knew that they had great friends. And so, excuse me. Uh, then I met the other actors, and we actually swapped roles for a couple of other actors because
Something
and
wasn't working or
well, there were either scheduling conflicts or this or that. There were a bunch of different things. But then I met them. We did a table read, and it was just like, oh, now I can go back and do little tweaks to the
yeah.
script, based on their personalities and skill levels and all those things. So
You
yeah.
mentioned, reaching out to local theater groups and stuff. Have you found any differences in working with people who are actors as opposed to stage actors?
Absolutely. Because they're night and day. It's like working on engines. Sure, it's an engine, but like all different engines have different you know complexities, let's say. Um and when you're a theater actor, everything is big and broad, because you're trying to tell somebody in the back row and emote in such a way that a person in the back row can see what's going on with your face, or whatever. And
Hmm.
so you have to be a little bigger. With film and television, when you come in for a close-up, it's not good to be big, like, just bring it down. Just bring it down a little bit. And so that's like trying to, and it's not a bad thing, that works great for theater, when it's big. But when it's on film and it's too big, I mean, we've all seen it, where people are overacting, or
Yeah.
what have you, or considered to be overacting. But
It
yeah,
needs to be more
that's the thing.
subtle.
Yeah, it needs to be more subtle because the story is told here,
Yeah, absolutely.
and you don't need to do all over the place to
Hmm.
get the point through.
So we touched on it earlier. The footage we've seen of Uprising looks amazing.
Mhm.
Tell us about the gear, total gear setup that you use to shoot Uprising.
Yeah, so when I go on a shoot, I'm usually loaded for bear, right? So I've got like multiples of everything. I've got, I brought, 2 gimbals. I brought more lights than I needed. I brought, so big, amount of stuff. And I used, for the most part, one light. I brought a bunch, but I used one light as a fill light because luckily the sets where I was, I was able to use what was around, use the lighting that was around. And I thought, okay, I'm going to shoot this on my big gimbal because I got a really, beautiful, the Weebill S, and I thought, okay, I'm going to shoot this whole thing on gimbal. And then as I started thinking about it and playing with it and playing with the phone, the 12 Pro Max, I was like, you know what? I think this show would benefit from handheld. And so I ended up shooting it all handheld.
A little bit grittier look for it.
Yeah, grittier look. And so all I had was my Beast Grip Pro. I'm sorry, my Beast Cage that I have back there on that shelf. And then I had this other product. Sorry about that. This other product. It's a kind of a new prototype that SV Optics sent me.
Nice.
Yeah, so as another rig, just in case. But yeah, so I shot the whole thing handheld with rigs. So I had my iPhone 12 Pro Max, Moment lenses, which I had the Moment 58mm lens, which is what I'm shooting on right now, with the Cinebloom filter on it and a variable ND when I needed it. And then the other lens that I shot with, only I think maybe 1 or 2 shots, was the Beast Grip 3x tele lens. And
what about software on the camera?
Well, I mean, me. I mean, the only thing I'm shooting with on the camera is Filmic Pro. I mean, that's that's pound for pound the best app out there. That
I agree.
And then for editing, and I'm sure we'll get to post, but this counts as for on set. I had my iPad Pro with me, and I have LumaFusion on there. So what I could do was, before doing another setup or a shot, and I wanted to check and see if the thing that I was kind of questioning whether it was in focus or not, I just pop it into LumaFusion, drop my LUT on there. My LUT is it's called a lookup table, and basically it's a look profile that you can take this milky hazy original footage and drop this LUT on there, and it'll change everything to make it all beautiful. That's kind of the layman's term, the layman's explanation for it. But I was able to do that right on my iPad.
So you're looking at dailies basically while you're on set.
I call them instants, because that's how fast it is. It's like I'm gonna check this out right now and see if I got everything. Yeah.
So were you shooting with the log color profile in Filmic Pro?
Yeah. So luckily, with I'm glad I waited until now. I mean, well, COVID forced us to wait till now to shoot it. But I'm glad I waited until now, because when the iPhone 12 Pro Max came out, it had 10-bit color, which was another big deal for me. And I was able to shoot in log with log V3, which is, again, log, I mean, not to get into the weeds of all the technical stuff, log just basically strips out all of the, most of the color and evens out the contrast. So then when you go into post-production, you can add more, take away, add more, whatever. Yeah. But those were, some of the things that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, shot log V3 and in 10-bit HLG, which was, I did not shoot, which I don't know if I did it again, I'm not sure. I'd have to do more testing, but I might try to do a project in Dolby Vision. So just to kind of see what
I've been shooting with that a lot lately.
How do you like it?
I've done a lot of different tests with that and the log, and I'm finding that it looks better for pretty much everything I've tried to do. I haven't been doing a lot of color grading or anything with it. I'm just using it straight out of the camera, and just, if I'm doing something for the channel and I want it to be quick and easy, I just grab it, put on Dolby Vision. I don't worry about, grading it or anything. It looks really good. As far as if I was going to be doing, something like this, I would probably shoot with log and have a little bit more control over the colors and stuff.
That's what I was going for. So, when you're shooting a movie, you want to have as much control over the things as you possibly can,
Absolutely.
and again, Filmic Pro, pound for pound, the best software out there to do that. I think. I mean, you know, they have sponsored me in the past on things, you have Filmic Pro and LumaFusion, because they have been sponsors, but I legitimately
Yeah, I
was,
enjoy using it the
yeah,
most, for
yeah,
sure.
and I was using it well before I met these people. I think because both companies are actually based out of Seattle, and I got to know them really well. So I was a fan before,
Yeah.
before them.
For anyone who is just now joining us, we are speaking with Courtney G. Jones, the host of Made on Mobile TV. He's talking to us about how we can take our film projects to the next level. Please give this video a like if you're watching, or leave us a comment, and we'll be sure to get to it as soon as we can. Courtney is currently working on a new sci-fi project called Uprising. We're taking a look at the trailer right now. Going back to Uprising, tell us about your editing workflow. I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but you completely use your iPad, all mobile devices for editing, correct?
I do. So, but I will say this. I mean, because this one was a little bit different, because you had mentioned visual effects and all of that, and there's some things that you just can't do on
True.
an iPad, at least not yet. So we'll see. But I did have to use a combination of iPad and computer, but that was very intentional, because I wanted to also show, because there's always this thing about, well, if you're editing on an iPad, it's not professional. It's like, well, it is, and not only is it professional, LumaFusion, but you can use it in a professional work environment as well, so what I did was I edited the project, shot it on the iPhone, edited on the iPad in LumaFusion, got my whole cut done the way that I wanted it to be. And then I used the XML export, which XML is just a file format that is, it references all your footage and everything. And so you can bring in an XML. It's a scripting language, I believe, some sort of, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to bring that into Final Cut Pro,
Okay.
which I'm not usually accustomed to using. I've been a Premiere guy for 20 years,
Same
so
here.
yeah. So I thought, okay, well, let me try to do some things in Final Cut, because people use that. That's also a part of the workflow, you know.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure it works great.
It
Coming off an iPad, it probably works seamlessly, I would
Well,
think.
the thing is with LumaFusion is that the XML that it exports is a Final Cut Pro XML, so it's
Right. Yeah.
FCP XML, right? A standard XML is just dot XML or whatever, but it translated everything that I did, one for one. I mean, it was a perfect transition over from my iPad to my computer. So yeah, that's how I
I
did that.
have
Did my
actually
visual
never
effects.
used LumaFusion on a project, but I have made some tutorials with it. I've explored the app. I think it's a really powerful
Mhm.
tool for editing, and I would highly recommend it to anyone that doesn't, have the money to pay for a monthly subscription to a Premiere or, whatever. I think it's a great program, and I actually might steal your idea of using it as a, instant or dailies driver on the set. That's a great idea.
Yeah, no, it's such a great workflow between the iPhone and the iPad, and it's really seamless. So it made it really a really easy transition for me. But when I was doing the actual edit of the pilot, I brought it into Final Cut, but I had to do the visual effects in something, and I wasn't going to use Apple's Motion for
Hmm.
that. So I went, back to what I know, which is After Effects. And so I did that, but I used a plugin that translates the Final Cut Pro XML into something that you can bring into After Effects. And so I
Okay.
did that, and another seamless thing. And put my workflow, what finishes out my workflow is that I was able to do my visual effects, export it out, export that clip, or that series of clips out into Frame.io, which is integrated in, there's a plugin for After Effects, but it's already integrated in LumaFusion, and then of course I had it on Final Cut, so I was able to take those finished clips and drop them right into the timeline.
Yes.
From Frame.io. It's just I have to, because I'm a one-man band, typically I have to find all the best ways, the most efficient ways of doing something, even when I'm on set.
Absolutely.
My best friend Reno, he's used to working on big series. He's an actor on that show Good Girls, and and other things. You've seen him in 100 other things, but he's used to using, like, being on the crew of, like, 80 people around,
Yeah.
all the time, and he's like, man, you made that look like you had 20 people on the set. And I was like, yeah, but you know how I do it. It was just me and my producer. My wife and son showed up and helped out a little bit, and then we had one PA,
Nice.
a production assistant on the show. So yeah,
We were kind of talking about this before the show started, but I built a PC last year, and I've kind of switched all of my editing stuff over to it because my Mac was getting kind of slow
yeah,
and old in the tooth. But that's one thing I really miss about using the Mac, is the ease of use between the devices. And that really, I mean, if you're going to be doing a completely mobile workflow, I mean, using Mac is just a dream, because
yeah,
you've got AirDrop, just click it, you got your video files wherever you need them. That's my biggest hurdle since I've switched to PC, especially if I'm shooting something with my mobile phone, is getting it to my PC.
yeah,
You've got OneDrive, but it's not instantaneous like AirDrop is. You load it to OneDrive and you set your phone down. It's like a 4K video file. It's going to take it maybe 30 minutes, depending on how long it is, to
yeah.
get it to your computer, and it really slows you down.
Well, there's some tricks around that, but I think one of the things that was so frustrating for me, when I had other workflows, is that taking that footage, like you were saying, like getting the footage off the phone into
Mm-hmm.
a PC or what have you. But there are these little drives that you can plug into your phone and transfer the data over, and which takes, because it's a lightning port on the iPhones and not a USB-C port, it takes forever. It is absolutely ridiculous. So, but what you could do is just start out, if you're not in that big of a hurry, like, have your iPad with you, but you could start your edit on your iPhone, because LumaFusion works on your iPhone as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I've done that many a times. I was just like, okay, let me see if I cut these two together real quick. Let me just make sure that I'm getting one of my, and I could absolutely do that. The
Just for a
only
quick
reason why
reference.
I
Yeah.
went to the iPad for to check things was checking critical focus, and things like that, because I wanted to have
Yeah.
the more real estate to see. But yeah, you can, these phones are so powerful right now that you could literally do your whole movie on your phone if you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we were kind of talking about it earlier, but how did sci-fi is one of my favorite genres for sure, and I've always kind of been hesitant to dive into it because the ideas. That's one thing I try to keep reined in, are my ideas. I don't let them get too big, because if you get out of that simple story area, you start going into like spaceships and stuff like that. Of course, the budget's going to start climbing up, and that's something I just can't really get into right now.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. How did this story come about, and what made you decide to write this? Did you write it all by yourself?
Yeah. So, again, when COVID kind of kicked off, I was like, you know what, I can write. I may not be able to go out and shoot and do all those things, but I can write, and I can do that for free. I can do that
Absolutely.
myself. I don't need to worry about anybody else. I don't have to worry about trying to get or give COVID to anybody else, because all I need to do is sit behind my keyboard and write. And so, yeah, I came up with the concept, and we were going to shoot it, when we thought the numbers were going to go down, like, before the summer of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, everything, went up and up and up. And it gave me, which I'm glad it did, because it gave me more time to kind of refine the script, over time, meet the actors, rewrite again, and all of that. But yeah, I came up with the idea, um, really, yes, it's sci-fi, and there are, robots and spaceships and all that kind of stuff. uh, but it's a family drama, really. And
Okay.
you know, kind of the premise, without giving too much away, is that aliens have been here for a few years, right? And they're using adults as slave labor to strip mine the planet, because that's kind of what they do is they come to a planet, they strip mine it, they use slave labor, and then move on. And so they're strip mining the planet. We've been maintaining the equipment, the mining equipment for them, and doing all of that. But what they do is they use here on this planet, they've been using the children as kind of like their leverage to keep all the adults working. And when we catch up with our group of people, our little crazy little band of rebels, they work at this metal fabrication shop, and making the widgets that help keep the machines running. And but what they're really doing is just a front for their rebel antics that they get up to. And we catch up with them as they're starting another mission that goes wrong, and sets us on our path. But it's really essentially how I treat sci-fi like this is that it's a family drama first. The robots are and the spaceships are, oh yay, that's the sci-fi gasm that we get, from getting all that kind of stuff. But really, I treat the characters as if this were the pandemic, as if this were some other natural disaster or whatever. So the sci-fi aspects are just, that's whatever, but it's the family drama that and the workplace drama as well.
Okay.
that that's kind of what
Well,
this
that's really smart because you got to have that emotional connection with your characters
yeah.
in order for people to care. How many episodes do you have? All the episodes filmed yet? Or are you still working on them? Or?
No, I only have I have all of the episodes, the first season arced out. I have
Okay.
all the story points for every episode. I only have a couple written, and then one shot. So which
Okay.
is the pilot. So
Are you currently planning on shooting the rest of it right now, or?
yeah, so right now what I'm focusing on is the business of the business. So now that I've
Gotcha.
got the pilot, I have something to show, right? I have
Yes,
something to
exactly.
show.
Proof of concept, basically.
Yes, exactly right. So and it's a full episode. It's I happen to like the half hour drama and drama and dramedy sort of formats now, and so this is a half hour episode. And so I'm right now I'm meeting with different companies for distribution, and hopefully we land on something there. And yeah, that's kind of where it's at right now. And so I probably, and the actors keep asking, when are we shooting, because they're just ready
That's
to
great
go.
that they're excited about it.
Yeah, and I had such a good time with them, and I'm really hoping for them that it happens the way that we all want it to. So
And that's what this is all about. I mean, it's creatives, filmmakers. It's a group of creative people
right.
coming together, collaboration to make something cool and interesting. And that's
Yeah.
what it's all about. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to someone who, you just said you made a proof of concept, basically someone who is looking to secure funding for a project like this, and they have a proof of concept? What advice would you give them?
So there are a couple of things that you would need. So if you've got the script written, have that written and ready to go, and maybe do more than one pass on it. Don't let it be your first draft that you let go out in the wild. I don't believe in doing too many rewrites, because a lot of times when I'm writing in my sleep, and so I'm unfiltered in my sleep, and I know that it's right.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'll just kind of translate that and put it down. But have your script ready to go, a good solid script. Have a good solid deck, which is a pitch deck, and it doesn't need to be something elaborate. I tend to make them pages long, but even if you have what's called a one sheet, which is the log line, a description of what the either film or series would be, have some pictures on there that are representative of your show, even if you haven't shot it yet.
Mhm.
But maybe take some some stills from projects that are similar to yours,
Exactly. Yeah.
comparables, or what we call comps,
A mood
like,
board, maybe create a
yeah,
mood
a
board.
mood board is always great, something that shows the tone of the show. If it's a movie, you can, sort of almost leave it at that. And if you already have, you know um attachments, like, actors, that will help, and especially recognizable actors, you can do that. But have something like that there, maybe some character breakdowns. And then and if it's a series, like, have all of those things, but then, either 5 episodes or more of an arc of what, like, the either the show will be, or what, the like, what a season would look like. So
I'm all about, pitch decks. You're speaking my language. I love that kind of stuff. And a product that I've actually featured on the channel is Milanote, and they have stuff built into Milanote where you can do a story flow, which is kind of what you're
yes,
talking about, which would
yeah,
be great for something like, especially if you're doing a series, show that story flow so someone can just get a brief idea of where the story's going, what the outcomes are going to be. That's a great
because
idea.
honestly, and I have to thank you for that, actually.
All right.
I signed up for it, and there's this company that I'm working with, and I'll talk about that in a half a second. But I got this company onto Milanote as well, so I have
It's
used it.
so awesome. I love it.
But so yeah, because we're in a visual medium, it's always good to have some visual aids for people. It's hard to get somebody to read a script, like a
Exactly.
TV script. Yeah, you can probably get somebody to read that, but nobody wants to sit and read 90 pages, or
Mm.
110 pages, of something. It's really hard, because if you imagine an executive or their readers, they have not just your script, but a stack of scripts, from the floor to the ceiling, that they have to
Maybe a
get.
whole room full.
Yeah, a whole room, and they got to get through them all by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
They can talk about it, come Monday.
I was
You know,
actually watching the show on Netflix, The Movies That Made Us, last night. I was
yeah.
watching the Jurassic Park episode, or was it? No, it was the Pretty Woman episode.
Mhm.
And, a guy that was paid at the company that just goes through old boxes of old scripts, and he found Pretty Woman stuffed in a script, or it could have been Forrest Gump. It was one of them. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but they're all kind of blended together. But you get my point. Yeah, stuff just sits in boxes. Great movies like Forrest Gump, Jurassic Park are sitting in boxes, never read for months, years.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's true. I mean, another thing that's really kind of important is building your community. Tapping into your community. And I think I'm going to sneeze. If I do, I'm going to hit the sneeze button. I got a sneeze button over here.
it's all right. Go ahead.
But uh but if you have a community, get your community warmed up. Like, we met essentially over Twitter, or was it YouTube? I think I reached out to you on
I think it was YouTube.
YouTube.
You
Yeah,
may have
but
left me a
we have our,
comment.
our community on Twitter, that we engage
Mhm.
with a lot. And I think that's really important, to have to have some sort of community, because you need that. Yes, it can be a solo thing, but it shouldn't be. This is a team effort,
Exactly.
and yeah, so have that, try to get that built as well, if you can.
How do you feel about crowdfunding? Have you ever crowdfunded a project successfully?
I've never done it. I've known people to have done it and found success doing it, but I think that you have to have your community built sort of
First.
before that. And I mean, I have my community, but I don't engage with people that way,
Mhm.
So um I think it wouldn't necessarily probably work as well for me. So
I tried it a while back when I first started my YouTube channel. One of the first projects I did was a Twin Peaks fan film, and I kind of tried to leverage the Twin Peaks audience. I didn't have an audience of my own at the time, but I tried to leverage them, thinking they would get interested in it.
yeah.
Didn't really get much traction. It's really hard to pull off, a funding campaign.
It's hard. It's hard to do all of this. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, it's not easy. And if it was as easy as we would like it to be, everybody would be doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, it is hard, because it's a full-time job. like engagement on the internet, if you're going to do it, properly, it's a full-time job, and you should probably, if you're not that good at it, you should probably pay somebody to do it, you know.
Exactly.
And I probably should do that because I'm not great at it, but
Going back to
I like talking to you.
appreciate it. Ditto, back at you. Going back to the distribution thing,
Mhm.
how do you feel about online digital aggregators that like pump your stuff out to tons of different streaming services?
Look, if you're new into the business, it could be either it could it could either get you to go into the business deeper, or it could totally kick you out of the business, because distribution is probably the most frustrating aspect of filmmaking, right? um if you're a studio, if you're at the studio level, the studio is financing and distributing everything, right? And so that's out of your hands, that's
Mhm.
not your department, whatever, it's being taken care of. When you're an independent filmmaker, you have to find the right distributor for your project. Okay, very important. My third movie, the one that had all the MMA fighters and actors and whatnot in it, you would think that would be a layup for a lot of distributors, because it's people with known, like they've got huge followings with the professional MMA fighters, right? So you would think that a company would be able to leverage that. But my distributor, which turns out I really like them as people. I mean, they're the sweetest folks on the planet, but it turns out their company was not the right company for that particular project. So find the one, like, don't try to take your creature feature, horror movie to, A3, or I mean, I'm sorry, A24 rather,
Yeah.
because that's not what they're gonna, that's not their thing. So you find the right place for your project. And
Don't try to get your love story distributed by Trauma Films. Is that what you're telling
right,
me?
right. Unless there's like, a love story between goo monsters or something, that's the thing. But yeah, you really do have to find the right place, and it's like any project, like a phone may not be the right tool for the, for your project. I think it is, but it just may or may not be. So you have to get the right place for the thing. But as far as like the aggregators, I don't know, there's been a lot of bad stuff that has happened over the last couple of years with some aggregators, and a couple of them I think have gone out of business. But
I believe it's the internet.
oh, uh, I'm still getting you. Are you there, bud? Well, I think it, I think it's still going, but I'll just keep talking because I can talk about this kind of stuff all day. Oh, there you are. You're back. So, uh, you there? See, this is the beauty of live. This is the beauty of live.
Yep. We're live, folks.
Yeah. this is how it works. This is how it works. I've had bad stuff happen on my podcasts and live streams. So yeah, it's a part of it. I forgot where I was, but I was talking about aggregators.
Yeah.
Just trying to find the right one for you. There's some that can probably do a really good job to get your project out there, but you have to check out the terms, like the terms, as they say, the devil's in the details, right?
Exactly.
And so you just have to check and see that your terms actually work for you rather than working against you. And it's like going to Vegas. um the house always wins, right? So the distributor, they're not doing this out of the kindness of their own heart. They're in business to make money,
Exactly.
and they're in business to try to make more money than you. so so just check the terms and make sure that if you are giving up your movie to a distributor, or what have you, that the terms, the amount of years work for you, the cut of the revenue works for you, and all of that. So you can find an entertainment attorney to go over all of that stuff with
Mhm.
you, and which I suggest. Sure, you're spending money on an attorney, but you're spending money to not get screwed. You're spending money to
Exactly.
not lose money, right?
I've heard some real horror stories about the aggregators.
Mhm.
There may be some out there that are, I've definitely looked into them because it's definitely an interesting prospect if you're, you know, making your very first feature film and you have no idea where to even begin. It's definitely an interesting prospect, but I've have heard some, horror stories about people never being paid the money they're owed,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And like I said, there may be some good ones out there, but I've never personally used one yet, so I really can't attest to that. But
If you're getting into the business and you're trying to do, to do this as a living, for a living, um, you might want to look into getting a producer's rep. That's something that might be of benefit to a lot of people, because the producer's rep will do a lot of what the aggregators are doing, but they will get it to the right distribution outlets for you. um and I think that's a little bit more beneficial. Now you're slicing the pie again. That's just one more slice of the pie that's going out. But if you have something really good, and you need to get it out there, that's probably, in my opinion, might be the best option, you know.
so let's say I just wrote my very first feature film.
Mhm,
I have a proof of concept, pitch deck, whatever you want to
mhm,
call it.
mhm.
Where should I take that pitch deck to? I mean, should I take it to studios? Am I taking it to distribution companies? Who am I taking that to?
Yeah, so, again, a producer's rep would be a good person to check out. A lot of these, there are a lot of distribution companies out there that act as producers reps and distribution. So it could be one-stop shopping with when it
Okay.
comes to that. Again, depending on the type of movie that you're trying to do, there are several. You can niche down, to your favorite, style. Like if you're talking about surfing vampires from outer space, like there's a distributor for that.
Hmm.
And so I would say target them. And one of the things that I would say do is, if you aren't already a member, or a subscriber to it, get IMDb Pro. Right. So IMDb, for those who know or don't know, is the Internet Movie Database, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a database of all things film and television. And on the consumer side, you can check out and see, who's been in what movie, and
Exactly. Hmm.
what movie is distributed where, and all that kind of stuff. But at the pro level, which is a subscription thing, um, you can get, the numbers and emails of different,
Oh,
companies, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just like
great
some
tip.
inside, industry baseball. Get that, and then you can, now, don't bombard people. If you want,
Unsolicited mail.
yeah, if you want your stuff to end up in the circular file, then go ahead and bombard them, but do it respectfully. um
Exactly.
and and uh and don't just hound everybody, but look for the, again, look for the companies that most fit your movie, and be realistic about what that is. You
Exactly.
can't say, oh, my movie, I've got a dinosaur in it, so I'm going to Universal. you know no, you're not. You are not going to Universal. If you have an agent or a manager, they're going to go to Universal. You are not going to Universal. You are going to go to one of the smaller production companies, distribution companies, producers reps, like a California Pictures, or a, High Octane, or a, depending on who you want to go to for your style of movie.
So it sounds like a great a tip would be to look for movies that are kind of the same production value as yours,
Mhm.
the same genre, maybe fits the same kind of style. Find out who distributed those movies and try to get in contact with them.
That's a good, actually, one of the good things, and somebody has told me this on numerous occasions, is reach out to those filmmakers that distributed their movie with that company, and find out what their experience was with that company, because just because a lot of people uh, have gone with a particular company doesn't mean that the experience was good.
Exactly.
So yeah, so definitely, go to independent. Now I know people, like I interviewed a gentleman, Travis Mills, who is doing 12 westerns in 12 months, right?
Hmm.
Which is insane,
I actually
but
have a clip from that right here.
yeah, and he self distributes. Now we have something out there. I don't know if you've heard of this thing. It's called the internet, right? It's it's a fad. It may not stick around. I don't know, but but the internet is probably one of the best places. YouTube, Vimeo, etc. If you're just looking to get stuff out there in front of eyeballs to get heat on you, I've known people, like I'm buddies with a guy named Has Dalal, and he does, speaking of sci-fi, I mean, this dude, he visual effects guru. I mean, he's worked for, ginormous companies, and, worked on ginormous projects, and he did all of his own visual effects. He got his manager because he put up a short film on Vimeo, I think it was, and the guy, was scouring the internet for that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and they hooked up, and now he's doing stuff for Disney. We're looking to do a project together. I mean, he's got big stuff going on.
It's a great, uh, it's a great thing to have a decent show reel or demo reel for people to see. Um, Definitely, I can definitely get you hired or get your projects funded.
Sure,
It
sure.
hasn't
Yeah.
me personally yet, but from what I've seen, it definitely
Well,
can.
you're warming up to a feature film, aren't you?
I'm working on one right now. I have like a dream project
Yeah,
planned, so
yeah, yeah.
maybe one day.
No, no, man, don't say that. That's the kiss of death right there. Okay, I'll do it. No, no, screw that. Screw that. Do
If
it.
my kids will let me finish writing it, I'll get it.
Well, look, I can't help you there, brother. I mean, no, but it's look, if you're trying to do your dream movie, so you've got something going that a lot of other people don't. You've done short films. You keep honing your craft, right? You keep doing that, and that kind of sets you apart from a lot of other people who have a hope and a dream, and a camera, and a couple of friends to put in. You have put people in front of the camera, shot, edited, and put it up on the internet, and that is what you need to do. Because as many projects as I've done, it's people only really think about you because of your last project, right? And if you've got one that's sitting in the chamber ready to go, and you don't pull that trigger, it means nothing. So maybe you don't do this feature if it's too ambitious or whatever.
Yeah.
If that's what you feel, then do something smaller, something that you can just do, get it done, get it to a distributor, because I've done a lot of different projects. I did stuff on Uprising that I haven't done before in my other projects, right? And I feel like I'm getting better and better with my coverage, and my lighting and shooting. I feel like I'm getting better. So every time you do it, you're going to get better. So
I've also noticed that on Amazon Prime now, they actually have short films on Amazon Prime from
right.
directors.
Yeah. So look, Amazon, you can get it on Amazon yourself. You can get it on Tubi TV. I was talking about Travis Mills. So he self distributes all of his stuff, and he puts it out Tubi, um, Amazon, and I think he mentioned like a couple of other places. And he's finding success with that, and he's also doing what's called four walling, right? So four walling is when you go to your local theater and you say, hey, let me run this movie, during whatever time slots that you guys kind of come to, and the house gets a cut of the sales, and of course they get the concessions, and whatever, but you get to get butts in the seats on your movie, and you can make some money. I mean, Travis did his thing, and I believe he funds his projects based off of the revenue and all that kind of stuff that he's made from his other projects, and he did it self distribution. you know? So that's an option. That's a major
Yeah,
option.
there's actually a local theater here, and most towns, most small towns probably have a local
Yeah,
theater on the main strip downtown somewhere that just shows old movies or something like that.
yeah,
And the theater here in town, I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't even thought about this, but they let local filmmakers show their films and invite the town out, and that's a
yeah.
good way to get a little bit of boost behind your project.
Get a boost, and get some exposure, which is something that you need. And then, you get to see your stuff on a big screen, and you get to figure out what's working, what's not working, um, because it's harder when you're looking at it on your phone or your iPad or computer. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the best thing ever, and then you see it on a big screen, and you're like, huh.
It doesn't look exactly the way I thought. Well,
Maybe
that
this is
happens
just a
between my
streaming
computer
movie.
screen and the TV.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's some things that, and another thing you got to really be is, again, you need to be honest with yourself, about what you have, because this is a product, right? You're making a product, and it's like any product. If your product is crap, you have to realize what you actually really have on you. My first movie, I had Ted Danson, Henry Winkler, Blair Underwood, Reno Wilson, Chaz Bono. I mean, you start, naming, because all the friends and friends of friends and whatever. And I made every mistake you can make in that movie. Every mistake. I haven't made now I made other mistakes, in my second and third movies, and even in Uprising, but I try not to make the same mistakes over and over, and
Exactly.
I try to, learn and get better. So
Constantly learn and get better. Constantly
yeah,
learn.
so again, if you've got a dream project, maybe you don't start with your dream project, because maybe the project that you do before that is the one that gets you recognized. And then when somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, great, that was awesome. What else you got?"
Exactly.
That's when you go, "Oh, here you go."
Nice. I love
So,
it.
yeah.
Well, we're just about out of time, Courtney. We've talked for almost an hour now. I really appreciate you joining me today. It's been really eye-opening. I've learned a lot myself. I hope everyone that's been watching has learned a lot. Very inspiring seeing your work on Uprising.
Thank you.
Um, Tell everyone where they can learn more about Uprising and learn more about you and see more of your work.
Sure, sure. I'm doing this, to show everybody that it can be done on a mobile phone. So I typically push people towards either my YouTube channel, or my website, which is madeonmobile.tv. That's the website. I have a page for Uprising. There's not really a whole lot on it other than, the actual, trailer and whatnot. But really engaging with me on YouTube and Instagram, those, I'm sorry, and Twitter, which is usually the best places. So Twitter, I'm at two places, Made on Mobile TV. But I seem to engage more with people on my personal one, which is I am CGJ. So
Excellent.
yeah.
I will be sure to include links to that stuff in the description, and I will post a comment for that. I apologize for the technical hiccup we experienced earlier. Not sure what happened. My light stopped working. The internet went down. It was like chaos. But that's live.
That's
That's
live,
what
man.
happened.
That's
But
live. Yeah.
I appreciate everyone joining us today. I hope you guys have found this inspiring and informative. Thank you for joining us on this filmmaking journey from me and Courtney G. Jones from Made on Mobile TV. We'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.
All right.